gentlemen, this is the Brock Lawley program. My name is Brock Lawley. I am your fearless host. This is the show. We tackle the news headlines, sifting out the leftist alphabet soup, Democrat Party, media complex lies like the chaff that it is from the golden wheat of truth. I serve that up to your ADD reality television show, soap opera, media minds on a platter of rhetorical deliciousness with golden nuggets, just morsels, mouthfuls of wonderful truth. That's what the show is in a nutshell. Let's jump into the stories, ladies and gentlemen. Another terror attack in London. This one, however, the leftist, disgusting media is interested in. Why? Because they think, of course, the media has a habit of jumping to conclusions, don't they? They think this one can be framed as crimes committed against Muslims, possibly even by a non-Muslim. This, of course, is the catnip. This is the catnip of all catnip. So if it's this, nobody with brown skin did it, so it's a real problem. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, again, turns out as the truth is surfacing, even the leftist fantasy fiction that they like to go right to print with doesn't end up being actually true. But nonetheless, you have more terror in London. And, you know, you have to step back and just have like a real sense of compassion, I suppose, for the people of London. I mean, just living in terror. I mean, absolute terror. It can wear people down like water on stone. It really can. Obviously, it can. The whole thing about, you know, this is true of black on black crime. This is true of the laundry list of atrocities that Muslims commit against other Muslims. It is troubling, isn't it? And it's just a matter of where you want to put the onus. I mean, I see this stuff all the time. Left and right divide. If a black man kills, I don't know, repeated fellow African Americans, it's a yawn fest from the left. It's a total yawn fest. It's as if nothing happened. And if they're able to write some sort of paragraph in there where some conservative is sort of vicarious to be blamed, or some white guy or Asian guy, or, you know, whatever the case may be, some non-black guy is to blame, it might be able to get a little bit of room on like page 27 of the old yellow belly lady York Times. Other than that, though, it's a non-issue. It's a nothing. It's a yawn fest. It's a roll your eyes. It's the same thing with Islam. You know how many darn near genocidal events there are where an Islamic man or woman is blowing up, murdering, killing another Muslim in his or her particular brand of radical Islam, and the media could care less about that. They don't have any interest in it at all. Doesn't fit a narrative, doesn't fit America's evil, brown people good, third world nations good, rich nations bad, U.S. military awful. You know, it just doesn't fit that NPR-ish sort of parrot-like progressive talking point narrative. So it's just a non-factor. These are some of the reasons, but not nearly all of the reasons why the left just reeks of inauthenticity to me. And regardless of how I end up being disappointed or disgusted by the GOP, the Democrats and their media, 6 1/2 of the other partners, they're just so revolting for this reason. It's a revolting group of people because truth is just not a virtue of theirs. It's something they have no interest in. They want to construct truth. It's very similar to reality for them. They want to construct reality, be it gender or social engineering practices, and they want to construct truth, and if it doesn't work in their paradigm, they'll just create their own. It's troubling. It's very damaging. It's exhausting. There it is. That's just the way it is, I suppose. Ladies and gentlemen, the amount of Republicans that are just slitting the president's throat, I don't know what to tell you other than to just urge you to remove your loyalty from the present GOP establishment. They don't deserve your loyalty. They're not conservatives. They are elitist, power-hungry, Washington, D.C. hacks is what they are. They can brand themselves however they want. That's what they want. They care about their own influence, their own power. It's just so revolting and disgusting. Just think of what we could do with this Trump administration and tearing down the damage that leftism has done. And yet you got these GOP hacks, the McCain ilk. They're just so disgusting to me. Oh, it's just horrible. Anyway, the Wall Street Journal has a piece on that. Republicans have to grow up fast, like Tuesday. They need to grow up fast. Race parties, battle for new swing voters. It's all just so much nonsense. New York Times, because President is not obsessed with the Russia interference talking points, I suppose, is what I'm going to refer to them as. He must be guilty of something. And if they can't find it, they'll make it up. And if they can't make it up, they'll present some sort of scenario in which he obstructed what they made up. He obstructed verifying what they made up out of whole cloth. It is just a level... What you see in D.C. right now is a level of fanaticism that I personally have never seen. And it all comes from the fact that they just don't see they don't see conservative ideas as legitimate. They don't see a president that they didn't put their rubber stamp of approval on as a legitimate. And then you double down on the fact that the establishment hates him because he's a very genuine threat to him. And you just have ravenous-like behavior from D.C. And it's disgusting. It's ridiculous. Doesn't serve the people. All this stuff. Think about how much money, time, and energy have went into investigating Donald Trump and his colleagues, his cabinet, in Russian collusion. No evidence at all have been found. None. And the media still just goes out there. The accusations out there. I mean, after all, two segments ago, my colleague here on CNN alluded to the fact that there could be possibly, I mean, he had drinks with a guy who really felt strongly about the fact this stuff is just ridiculous, and it goes on and on and on and on. And obviously they feel as though they found nothing or they can't find anything. So the latest round is that Donald Trump is being investigated for obstruction of this stuff, which again turns out to be total lies and total half-truth and misinformation from the media. But that's not the point. The point is just to throw mud. It's just to throw mud. That's all it is. Oh, they're such an enemy of the people. If the people only woke up to this, they're just such an enemy. Anyway, the New York Times. Why isn't the president obsessed with this? If he's not obsessed with it to fever pitch like we are, therefore he's guilty of something. What? We don't know. We have no proof of anything, but won't keep us from just completely asserting things left and right. Minimum wage apocalypse slowly builds stream in California. It'll be worse in areas that can't afford it. Your Rodeo Drives and stuff will survive it. So in other words, they're forcing $15, $20 an hour. Businesses are going down the tubes. Jobs are going down the tubes. Why? Because math is math. And math doesn't really care if liberals don't like it. They don't care about made-up economic nonsense from Democrats. Labor just has a worth in the marketplace. It just actually has a worth. And if you don't want to pay $50 for your hamburgers, you can't pay the guy that flips them $25 an hour. Because then you have to charge $50 for your hamburgers. Nobody's willing to pay $50 for your hamburgers. Thus, the job goes bye-bye. Or, if the businessman is smart, he invests in the latest technology, which just subcontracts out that 16-year-old kid for some computer kiosk. Thus, consequences. See, leftism always has to face the consequences of reality. They generally don't have to always do that at the ballot box, but math is math. Gravity is gravity. Leftist ideas and economics are not based in real things. They're just based in feelings. And feelings don't add up a theorem or a sum. Feelings don't do anything except for make Democrats feel like they're better than other people because they said, we want to pay some poor guy $25 an hour. Just because we said it, hocus pocus, some business guy ought to do it. Of course, the person saying this has no idea what business is, has no idea how to orchestrate business or conduct business. He's a bureaucrat after all. His job is to destroy business. He's like the business killer. Leftism does so much damage to the poor. I would love for there to be an awakening. I'm talking about real people. Real people. I'm not talking about what they say. I'm talking about what happens to real people because of leftism. It makes my heart sick. It really honestly does. Anyway, FRESNOBEE.com. Go read that article. If you're going to read one article, go read that article. Minimum wage apocalypse, the consequences of leftism. Trump pushes hard for apprenticeships, no pun intended. I Another positive move, which he gets no credit for. Look, the age of spending $80,000 for underwater basket weaving diplomas is over. Study the trades. Everybody I know that studies the trades making $80,000 plus a year. Oh, I know. In high school, you might not get the girls if you're in tech school. But you'll get the girls when you're making $80,000, $90,000 a year. And you'll have a nice quality of life. Listen, the old college model where the federal government subsidizes all these universities that do nothing but basically tell every guy at the university he's a rapist and Republicans are evil Nazis. You know, more and more people have, and will continue to awaken to the fact that this is nothing but a propaganda belt for leftism. It's not an education. If you're not in the hard sciences or maths or engineering, you're not getting a good education in these liberal arts universities. Nonetheless, Trump actually proposes a solution. I know, a very radical thing to do in Washington, D.C. He proposes a solution which is apprenticeships, which is awesome, by the way, which works, which is a solution. And if you've actually been paying attention to the substance of what Donald Trump does, he's constantly doing this. Solutions all over the place. What's the media telling you about? Fake nonsense can't be substantiated by anything because they're deviants, because they're Democrats, because they might have a suit and they might have some spray on tan, they might be on CNN. They're just Democrats. There's no difference between them and Nancy Pelosi. Anyway, moving on. Wall Street Journal has the piece on apprenticeships. More good news on the education department focuses on, wait for it, education, less on fantasy, made-up, non-civil rights fronts that don't actually exist. Of course, the New York Times is appalled. So in other words, your third grader will learn to read, write, and occasionally do some arithmetic, and will get less information on mutilating her vagina, or moreover, instruction on how her vagina doesn't make her a female. This is just very disturbing to the New York Times, because after all, we all pay trillions of dollars for public education so the left can propagandize their mind and disease their mind in irreconcilable ways into their adulthood, instead of teaching them to think, which is a great antithesis to leftism. You teach a kid to think. That's all you really should do with education, and then set them on their way. The left's very, very, very concerned with dumping in what to think. Teaching them to think makes them a danger to leftism. Teaching them what to think makes them a leftist drone. Thus, the modern-day education system and the education system for the last 100 years, which is an abysmal failure by every recordable standard. That piece is in the New York Times. They're just beside themselves. Actual education, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Just how can we do this? This is the greatest front known to man. Terrible forest fires in Portugal kill 60 people. It's hard to believe. It's inevitably it will be global warming. But if the truth ever comes out, it's bad forest management. And by the way, most of the time when I look into this kind of stuff, by the way, that piece is in the New York Times too, bias, nonsense. When I look into this kind of stuff, a lot of times these green gone wild psychopaths will not let normal things like deforestation, brush management, all these different things, because there might be a weird spotted turtle that's spotted somewhere in here, so God forbid a man put on some gloves and do some work. Thus, a raging forest fire happens. The media never tells you that some psychopath group funded largely by Soros or some other Tom Sawyer outfit actually acted in an imbecilic way. And then we'll get lectured on science, even though science taught us to actually clear the brush out of this and prevent forest fires. This kind of stuff, this kind of cycle of imbecility is constantly happening. New York Times has that piece. Navy ship collides with container ship. Given all the technology around keeping track of these ships, it seems strange to me, at least. 7 people are killed. 7 innocents killed. I got to tell you, I just sense tomfoolery here, but I have no evidence. But my gut's telling me that. That's all I know, though. New York Times reporting on that poorly. Was it an accident? There's a piece in American Thinker. Again, jumping to just vast conspiracy conclusions is not my game. Probably was, I guess. Maybe not. We're going to see. Put that one on the shelf for the time being. Iran launches missiles into Syria from Iran, aimed at ISIS, so we hear. Anxiety. Iran launching missiles, by the way, I just want to point this out, wholeheartedly and completely against the Iran agreement that Barack Obama supposedly signed, which really was just the American people giving Iran money to murder, maim, and malign people in the West in the name of radical Islam. That's what the deal was. Stacks of money in the dark of night. But Iran has no interest in keeping any of that. So just bear that in mind when you hear some leftist hyperbolic nonsense on NPR about Trump's dismantling Obama's this and that. It's because it's a failure. It's because the idea is bad. It's because leftism fails in practice. Just letting you know. Yeah, Iran just launching missiles. Launching missiles. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, something to bear in mind. I just got done watching, this is just a little bit of a rabbit trail. I just got done listening to, rather, an NPR special about Puerto Rico. It's so part and partial. It's so telling. They have this segment on the media where essentially they just slay Trump and talk about how Democrats are awesome on the media segment. This piece was on Puerto Rico, which I have been to and take some interest in their pursuit of statehood. And, also they just had a vote, which you might not know about because it's Russia, 24 hours a day on the media. But, there was a vote in statehood. Puerto Rico is a really bizarre place politically, by the way. I love talking to them over there. They're all over the place. They're like schizophrenics over there. But at least they're politically active. And, of course, NPR's conclusion is America is awful for giving them money. So NPR is totally bankrupt. Puerto Rico is completely bankrupt. And I'm talking mad, crazy bankrupt. Like strapped 90% of their product in debt. And, of course, it's run by leftism. I don't need to tell you that. But every story NPR does, everything they do, it's always America's horrible and conservatives suck. It doesn't matter what the story is. So here you have Puerto Ricans who have, for one reason or another, not decided to indulge in statehood in the United States. And because they didn't, and there's underbelly to that, they want their cake and eat it too, has been my conclusion, by the way, if you just want my 2 cents. They want their cake and eat it too. They want all the money of the West. They want all the money of America, but they want just so pretend like they're doing it themselves. And anyway, it's all America's fault. It's not Puerto Rico's fault for making wrong, poor decisions. No, it's all America's fault. It's just like the tone of the left. It's just the tone. And sadly, I'll leave you with this pathetic story of social engineering. Father-daughter dances will be no more because not everyone has a father. Moreover, what is father? Father is a gender-specific word. Moreover, what is daughter? Daughter is also a gender-specific word. We can't have this. This is very, very damaging to the fabric of our society, so says NPR and the leftist maniacs in the social engineering realm. Therefore, fathers and daughters can't have that connective time. Everything the left touches is the opposite of the Midas touch. They just destroy and destroy and destroy. It's all they do. It's all they do. It's all they do. Because there's a same-sex couple, parent, or something out there, father and daughter dances have to go away. It's madness, and we tolerate it. Until the American people stand up and just start pushing back on this stuff, this will be your new reality. Be a people of fortitude, character, and courage.